InvestorIdeas.com podcasts.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcasts, looking at cannabis news, stocks to watch, as well as insights from thought leaders and experts. In today's podcast, we look at early announcements from CleanSpark Incorporated, trading on the OTCQB as CLSK, CHOO trademark, trading on the CSE as CHOO, and the OTCQB as CHOOF. Canopy Rivers Incorporated, trading on the TSX as RIV and the OTC as CNPOF. TerraScend Corporation, trading on the CSE as TER and the OTCQX as TRSSF. And Core One Labs Incorporated, trading on the CSE as COOL and the OTCQX as CLABF. But before getting into that, looking at Province Brands of Canada, who I've discussed before and we've also had interviews with in the past, a leading researcher in cannabinoid science and the developer of the first-of-their-kind luxury beverages powered by cannabis, recently announced the filing of a patent application in the U.S., as soon as to be expanded globally, for a novel strain of yeast designed to improve the company's first-of-its-kind process for the fermentation of cannabis and help Province Brands bring the world's first beverages brewed from cannabis in place of the seed or fruit or cereal grasses to market. So this is the second patent in the progress of Province Brands of Canada. And this goes with the invention of the strain Sikia, which is already on file with the International Depository Authority of Canada, and is a novel proprietary technology which allows the company to more effectively convert the stalk, stems, and roots of the cannabis plant into a fermented beverage. So comparing it on the market right now, nearly every other commercially produced brewer yeast has been specifically engineered to ferment sugars from seeds or fruits or cereal grasses, or pure sugars, whereas prior to development of this yeast, Province Brands of Canada was limited to only working with these commercially available yeasts and was not able to achieve full fermentation of cannabis stalk, stems, or roots. So with the creation of this, they are able to get a full actually brewed beverage from the cannabis stalk, stems, and roots and the plant. The yeasts themselves produce abundant flavor compounds and are a signature to a beer. This technology allows Province Brands to combine traits of a yeast cousin to improve the organoleptic qualities of the beers produced from cannabis and to be distinctive and exclusive. I believe the technology here is complementary to Province Brands of Canada's existing collection of technologies and previous developments, said Dr. Aaron Johnson, the developer of the technology. So the patent application also involves technology that selects the isolates, the proprietary strains of yeast, which should allow Province Brands of Canada to create the best tasting, highest quality brewed cannabis beverages available. So Province Brands looking to expand their patents into the U.S. and eventually internationally for their technology to create beer from actual cannabis plants. Seems like a good move on their part. It would be interesting to see when these products are actually going to come onto the market, whether in the U.S. or in Canada. With Cannabis 2.0, there's an expectation that the Province Brands will be able to be launching product in January or February of next year. But as far as I know right now, they still haven't achieved their full licensing and approval for their product, and I also don't know as far as the actual product goes what they'll be able to store it in, as I think that a lot of the containers that they've currently already planned on using are not going to be allowed in the current framework for edibles. So moving on to CleanSpark Incorporated, a microgrid company with advanced engineering software and controls for innovative distributed energy resource management systems, announced that it's received an engineering contract as a result of a previously announced project feasibility study. And the engineering contract is for the creation of an independent and comprehensive power system for an indoor-controlled distribution cannabis grow facility in California, and the engineering contract is expected to be completed by the end of October. The execution of the engineering contract comes as a result of the successful feasibility study backed by our MVSO software, said Mr. Zach Bradford, CleanSpark's president and CEO. Our MVSO software was used to determine the appropriate energy storage, solar PV system sizes, projected utility savings, capital costs, operations and maintenance costs, and a 20-year economic financial model depicting the project's return on investment, cash flows, and tax effects. This is a critical part of project analysis, and our software solution helps to determine the overall economics of any microgrid project. Our analysis showed that this is a feasible and economic project, and as a result, it's now moving to the engineering stage with our assistance. We expect successful completion will lead to the additional revenue opportunities for energy storage procurement and our controller and M-Pulse software in the six-figure range. So CleanSpark has now passed their feasibility phase and is moving into engineering. It's an interesting development. I've talked about their company a couple times in the past. As far as their sort of software goes, It's something that the industry could use a lot of, especially in different markets where they need to create a microgrid system. And obviously, the fact that it's including the entire projected analysis of future revenue models as well as taxes and how this all goes together for a long-term projection. There could be other cannabis companies that are looking to do this. Mr. Bradford concluded the cannabis industry continues to be one of the prime market opportunities for our solutions, as the remote location of many grow facilities and large power consumption needs create significant challenges for the industry. This often makes a microgrid and independent power production the optimal solution for reliability and scale, and presents us with the opportunity to leverage our products and software in a high growth sector of the market. So as you commented there, the remote locations and massive power needs are a big issue facing the cannabis industry, whether you're doing production or even in some cases retail, depending on where you can get licensing. This is going to be something that hopefully companies start adopting, at least looking at the software side of things to at least implement into their engineering plan for future locations. I don't know if a lot of companies will still be sticking to a microgrid solution anytime soon, but it's something that's interesting for the future of the industry, and I would hope that more large-scale facilities start putting that into their factoring for building their facilities, is to have their power needs met outside the grid, as again, a lot of them are trying to move into different locations, especially in the Canadian market. Next, looking at CHOO trademark as well in the Canadian market, an emerging adult use cannabis company that secured one of the largest national retail networks in Canada, as I talked about retail earlier in the week. So they announced that they secured a development permit for the retail location and 2nd Avenue in the Olympic Village location. So Corey Gillen, the president, states that CHOO is thrilled to have secured a location for CHOO's flagship store in the city of Vancouver, and with it the opportunity to bring a CHOO retail store to the Olympic Village community of Vancouver. Initially constructed for the 2010 Winter Olympics, Olympic Village has transformed into a vibrant and dynamic community, and we're excited to bring a gold medal retail experience to residents and visitors of this fantastic community. So the location has received a development permit and the required Board of Variance approval from the City of Vancouver to operate recreational retail cannabis, and CHOO has submitted its application for the recreational retail cannabis store license to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch of the province of BC. As far as when they'll actually get that approval, I wouldn't hold your breath. It will take a little while, as BC has been moving behind as far as approving their licenses. But a good development for CHOO to actually be in sort of the heart of the city right now. That's where, again, as far as BC retail goes, they're mostly in the interior of BC or sort of outside of the major cities. And for right now, nothing's really been moved into the actual city of Vancouver, at least on a large scale side of things. So any of these companies that are looking to create the retail chain brand across Canada, as soon as they can get their actual brand awareness into any major city, whether it's Ontario or Vancouver right now, it's going to be a huge move for their company moving forward. Next, looking at Canopy Rivers as well as TerraSend Corporation, who both signed strategic alliance agreements with Kindred Partners Incorporated, which is a specialty cannabis brokerage and services company. Kindred is a wholly owned subsidiary of Breakthrough Beverage Group, which leverages the deep experience of its sister company, Breakthrough Beverage Canada, in working with Canadian provincial control boards, public and private regulated cannabis businesses, licensed producers, and retailers looking to broker regulated cannabis products for the adult use market. As we head into Cannabis 2.0 and the Canadian cannabis market continues to develop in a highly regulated environment, we expect that distribution will be one of the key tenets of success for our brands, said Narve Alexandrian, the president and CEO of Canopy Rivers. Our strategic alliance with Kindred presents a valuable opportunity for our portfolio companies to access the expertise and distribution channels necessary to enable their branded products to thrive. And we're excited to work with Kindred alongside our portfolio to unlock the industry's long-term potential. So the agreement affords Canopy Rivers' portfolio of current and future licensed producers access to Kindred's brokerage, marketing, and brand building services, and Kindred will provide strategic benefits to Canopy Rivers through its network and team of marketing and branded product experts, insights from Kindred's industry-leading expertise, resource planning and market intelligence infrastructure, and broker distribution through Canopy Rivers portfolio companies at scale via Kindred's already established national sales platform. And again, I also mentioned that TerraSend has also announced that it's formed a strategic partnership with Kindred. Canopy Rivers recently invested another $10 million into TerraSend, and they've also been part of the Canopy Rivers ecosystem for a long time. And they actually applauded the venture capital firm Canopy Rivers and Kindred on their strategic alliance, as again, they're all sort of connected in that right now. And it is something that any company should be focusing on. And a few of them have already done this, is partnering with a beverage producer who already has the distribution and infrastructure set up for distribution of their products once they're actually allowed out onto the market. And we've seen this with most of the companies focusing on the beverage sector moving forward, is whether through a partnership or at least through some sort of in-house build-out, they've created some sort of setup to ensure their infrastructure and distribution channels once they want to put these products out to market. Again, when can we expect these products and what will the actual potency and profile of these products be is still yet to be determined. And again, we'll be expecting that probably for January or February later in the year. And then lastly, looking at Core One Labs, who announced it signed a non-binding letter of intent to acquire all the outstanding shares of the Rainy Days Cannabis Corporation in exchange for a cash payment of $100,000 and 3.5 million shares of the company's common stock. So Rainy Days was organized by the CEO of a fully licensed Canadian LP with current cultivation and medical sales licenses, and Rainy Days facility has a license application in process. The facility used by Rainy Days is also held under a long-term lease and currently under construction, and is scheduled to be completed in the second quarter of 2020. Once completed, the facility will include 22,000 square feet of canopy space and 3,500 square feet of operational purpose-built building. So the completion of this transaction is still subject to satisfactory due diligence process, which is expected to be completed by November 30th. So the CEO of Core Labs Incorporated, Brad Eckenweller, commented, "With completion of this proposed transaction, Core One Labs will have a clear and defined path to the Canadian market, and ultimately the ability to export cannabis strips internationally. The location and extensive capabilities of the Rainy Days facility is uniquely suited to meet the goals and aspirations of the Core One Labs team. The company will continue to update the market on the progress of this transaction as it proceeds to the completion of the acquisition." So one of the big elements or products coming from Core One Labs is their cannabis strips, which is one of the things they want to bring to the Canadian market. I've talked about them before, as well as the few other competitors with the sort of rapid dose strips. There's a few of these strip type companies or products that are out in the market right now for the sort of easy usage of getting your cannabis dose. Although from right now, I haven't seen a lot of these products' success on the market or even the consumer demand for them specifically, as most people are just going to the straight edibles route or beverages if they're looking in the States. And even for the Canadian market, a lot of people are choosing the capsules and tinctures over going for a straight strip type of product. I think it's just maybe the type of product it sits in hasn't quite caught on to the consumer market yet. But also we haven't seen a lot of these products on the market in the retail sector, even in the US right now. And again, this sort of speaks to the general trend you're starting to see right now, which is a lot of US brand companies trying to look for their leverage into the Canadian market. As they've already established their brands in the US, they're trying to bring these to the Canadian market, either through partnerships with Canadian companies, or in this case, acquiring a Canadian sort of shoot-off landing point to spread your product and move it out into, this will be focusing mainly just on Western Canada with 12 locations. But still, it's a development there to try and bring their brand to the Canadian market, which again, for the Cannabis 2.0, we're seeing more and more US companies enter into the Canadian market as opposed to the reverse we were seeing in the past. That's all for today's podcast. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.